After doing quite a bit of work in K-12, what I realized is that isn't as safe a place to learn as I might thought. But libraries, however, are the safest place to learn. There are no tests. Nobody's telling us what we have to teach. I mean, you can come here and learn anything that's available for free. And, libraries are an interesting place in their history. They're an iconic institution, and over the years, have really benefited from technology and the different innovations that have come down the pipe. The Dewey Decimal System, card catalogs, microfiche, film strip, you name it. It seems like every bit of technology that has come the library's way has really supported their mission. And now that we're all carrying card catalogs and full libraries in our back pockets, the question is, what is it? What's the future of library? What does it become if it no longer has monopoly on the warehousing, the sharing of information? What is the library going to become? And so every once in a while I work with libraries to work with their constituents in order to discover what are the needs that exist in the community that we don't know about yet that we can address through the system. So that's what brings me here. So entrepreneurs tend to convince themselves that their ideas are good, right? And for good reason, right? It takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of courage to be an entrepreneur, to go out on your own, find a problem that you feel like solving, and then come up with good ideas, all right? The question is that reality or is it illusion? Are we kidding ourselves when we fall in love with our greatest idea? Or is it true? The thing is, it's both. It's both. And either way, design thinking helps us to explore that. Design thinking is a process that helps us filter out lesser ideas and sustain our objectivity, right? So that even if we do fall in love with our greatest idea, that design thinking as a process supports us to stay as objective as possible. And it's all an effort to build muscles for a healthy company. There's a book out this past year called Heart, Smarts, Guts, and Luck. And it talks about these 4 sort of orientations that an entrepreneur might have, whether you're gut-driven, heart-driven, luck-driven, or smart-driven. And you can go online, you can take a free assessment to see which one of those you are. And my guess is that once you get the results, you'll go, oh yeah, I knew that about myself. But the book itself does point out some really interesting behaviors and ways of being that people who are heart-oriented or smarts or guts or luck-oriented. And the truth is, every one of us has a slice of each of those. The question is, which one do we lead with? What are the advantages to that, and what are the disadvantages? We get all 4, but one of them we're good at. Not to change that, but just to be aware so that you can know, is this the time? Is my heart getting in the way? The very thing that drives me to solve this problem, is it now getting in my way? By exploring that, you'll get to know. So what is design thinking? Does anybody have an idea of what design thinking might be? Okay. Design thinking is an iterative process, meaning we go round and round and round. And the rule of thumb is that if I start out with a challenge and I do some identifying, imagining, prototyping, testing, and then I iterate, the rule of thumb is that if I go through that process 7 times, the result that I get on the 7th time will be 1,000 times better than the one I started with. So I have the new iPhone, which replaced the iPhone that was before that, which, of course, replaced the iPhone that came before that. And so although I have the newest iPhone, it's really a prototype for whatever it is that replaces it. So I won't fall in love with that one because I know it'll be obsolete soon. The thing is, by the time Apple continues to iterate, they will probably come up with something that I can't live without even more than I already can't live without the phone that I have. As a result, we get a deeper understanding and higher quality results. As an entrepreneur, as a small business person, out in the marketplace, you want to have the deepest understanding into the lives and the experience of the customers that you seek. If you create something that you're in love with and then take it out to the market trying to find somebody that agrees with you versus identifying just like the news people were doing, rather than creating stories and trying to sell them to the public, they went to the public in order to discover what the story was, which seems pretty obvious, but it runs counter to what market pressures have forced public media to do. And what it allows us to do is it allows us to keep the best of what we have while creating the best of what we want. Now, sounds simple, but it's actually quite hard. It's quite hard that once we come up with a success formula, or we have the best of what it is that we have, to let that go, to realize that its time has come, and how do we both simultaneously keep the best of what we want and create the best of what we want. So we're going to jump right into some design thinking, because it's so much easier and more enjoyable to learn about DT by doing it rather than listening to me drone on about it. So when you came in, there were bags back there, and I hope that each of you got one, and if you didn't, please raise your hand. Some bags say A on them, and other bags say B. The reason is because I'm going to put the instructions for each step of the design process up on this screen, so if you're an A, you'll know it's your turn, and if you're a B, you'll know you're next. So it's going to be important that you have a partner to work with. And it looks like you might join over here if you would, or vice versa. And I think that we have... So everybody make sure that you have a partner. I think there's just enough people so that we all have a partner. So while you're finding each other, I just want to let you know that this is going to feel really rushed. Okay? One of the agreements that we've made is that we'll be finished by 8:30, and my commitment is to stay as close to 8:30 as possible. And in service of that, we're only going to have so much time to spend on each phase of this process. And so what I've done is, for those of you who need to know in advance how much time you're going to have, in the bottom right-hand corner of every screen that has an activity that's timed, it tells you right there how much time you'll have. And I'm going to use my timer, and I'll make some obnoxious sound that will let you know that your time is really up and that you should stop. So as soon as we get everybody settled down and partnered up, feel free to introduce yourselves if you don't know each other already. I'm sorry? Oh, we have a whole bunch of them back here. Oh, I don't know. Does anybody feel extra? No, we're all essential. Okay, you could be a trio, unless you'd like to join. Okay. The librarians always say that. They're like, no, I'm working. All right. So inside of these brown paper bags, you will find a straw, a couple of pipe cleaners, some zip ties, some stickers, some stuff. The most important thing that's in that bag right now is the construction paper. So if you would go ahead and pull out your construction paper, that would be great. And you can choose any color you want. It doesn't matter. You're just going to call it page 1, and you don't even have to write that down. But here's your first design challenge. When everybody's ready, you're going to have 3 minutes. And on your own, I want you to design the ideal wallet. Now, I want to say first that this is a design exercise that I first learned from the D School at Stanford. So I want to give them credit. I have tweaked this over the years, but I need to give them credit for coming up with this design challenge. It's very quick and easy, which is why I don't create my own. So on a count of 3, I will start this timer. You'll have 3 minutes to design the ideal wallet. 1, 2, 3, go. And if it helps, imagine listening to your favorite song while you're doing this. On your own. You're going to design the ideal wallet. Notice the first thought that you had when I gave you this challenge. You don't have to work with it or process your way through it, but notice what was the first thing that came up for you when I said design the ideal wallet. Keep doing what you're doing, though.
What do you do if you don't carry a wallet?
I can't answer that for you.
Huh?
I can't answer that for you.
Well, part of society too.
That's true. That's true. So if you don't carry a wallet, maybe you might think, okay, so what is it that a wallet does for people, and how do I meet that need for myself not using a wallet? Because some people, the ideal wallet is a money clip. Other people, it's their front left pocket, which happens to me sometimes. If I'm wearing jeans, I promise you there's a wad in there. You have 1 minute. Anybody feeling pressed for time? Okay, so you only have 30 seconds left. Anybody feeling pressed for time?
Yeah.
Okay. You have 15 seconds left. All right, go ahead and stop. So does anybody have any observations for what it is that happened for them when they got the challenge, or like any part of your experience? Go ahead. You can if you want. Oh, you did? You thought for sure you had to use paper? Okay. Anybody else think that there was a should in there?
I took inventory of what pieces you gave me. I don't carry a wallet, I carry a money clip.
Uh-huh.
So, all right, the pieces you gave me, what can I do with these to create some type of what is standardized as a wallet? Typical things are in it. You do your own inventory of it. I end up with a face on mine. I want the fashion designs.
Okay. So that's true for some people. One of the most important things that influences their buying decision is fashionable. You know, other people, is it functional? Go ahead.
I think sort of like what you said, I kind of had a preconceived notion of what I needed for requirements. And I did something in my front pocket, hold my credit cards with something that would keep stuff from falling out.
Sure.
And I was looking at the materials to figure out what I could use.
Sure. So some of us, as entrepreneurs or solo business practitioners, work on our own, and this is what we do. Oh, here's our challenge. Let me get to it. And we go straight into the doing, right? What design thinking, or what is sometimes referred to as human-centered design, which is based on my understanding of your experience. So I could design a wallet and hope that it fits ideally for everyone, or I could inquire into what it is about a wallet that matters most to you and design for you. So the first example of, hey, let's just launch in there and design a wallet, is an example of me designing based on my perspective on what would be ideal either for myself or for someone else. We're not going to do that anymore. Sure.
Yeah, I wanted to find the ideal wallet last year.
Uh-huh.
And so I went to as many stores as I could imagine that have wallets, and I knew the things that I had to carry in my wallet, and then I found them.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the one that I like the most. It works beautifully for me.
Mm-hmm.
Except I wish it was half as thick as it is.
I was going to ask you.
Which means I just have to get rid of all the cash that I carry.
Right. Well, there's people out there that would be more than happy to help you with that. Here's the thing. Do you carry your wallet around in your back pocket all the time?
Nope.
Okay. Because I used to do that, and what I noticed is that I was going to the chiropractor because, it was the Princess and the Pea, this great wall that held everything except it threw my back out of alignment. So is that ideal?
No.
So if I'm designing a wallet and all I do is go, what do you carry around versus how's your lower back and do you spend a lot of time sitting? And like if I don't look at how you actually live with this wallet, I'll come up short every time, which is why we keep buying new wallets because we think that there will be another one that's better, but for the most part, wallets haven't changed much. So the next thing that we're going to do, your new challenge, your actual challenge, is to design something useful for your partner. Now notice that this is different. We're not designing a wallet. We're designing something useful for your partner. And in order to do that, we need to know a little bit about each other. So if you'll take your next sheet of paper, we're going to start by gaining empathy. And empathy is a cornerstone of design thinking. Empathy is a muscle that we're all born with. And as we grow and we learn, we become less empathetic. And there's good reasons for that. It's not because we're all narcissistic, because that's actually a clinical diagnosis, and most of us don't qualify for that. But what ends up happening is we become so accustomed to our own experience that we actually can project our understanding of things onto other people's stories, right? Empathy is, I want to know what's up for you. And I'll notice when I start filtering your story with my story, but I want to know what's up for you, okay? Because my job is to design something useful and meaningful for you, okay? So if you are an A person, you're going to have 4 minutes to have a conversation with your partner who is the B person, and then we're going to switch that, which is why the A and B is important. So on the left side of either one of your sheets of paper, talk to your partner. Ask these kinds of questions. When do they carry their wallet? Why do they have a particular card in there? And for this, you have to be, willing to share your wallet and or your purse with your partner. So, and this is always an iffy thing. You never know who's carrying what. So, but I figure, what's that? Your real wallet. Your real wallet. And you're not going to hand it over to anybody. We're not exchanging wallets. A wallet is a thing that we all have, or we have some version of it, and it is reflective of our lives. I have a AAA card. Why is it gold, not platinum? I have a military ID. Why don't I have pictures of my kid? There's all kinds of things going on. So you're going to have 4 minutes. In a count of 3, you're going to have 4 minutes to explore that with your partners. 1, 2, 3, go. 1 minute and 30 seconds. Feel free to take lots of notes. Jot down anything that stands out for you. What do the things in their wallet tell you about their lives? Is their wallet old? Is it new? If it's new, why did they get a new one? Where did it come from? What's that? Your name's Mike, right? Yeah, Mike was saying that he feels like he's with the detective right now. All right, 30 seconds. If there's anything that you don't know, this might be your last chance to find out. You got 15 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All righty. So that was person A interviewing person B. Now person B is going to interview person A. Okay? Now the second person always has an advantage because they are on the receiving end of the first time. So the second round of this first round of inquiry for you B people should be pretty fruitful. And go. have 1 minute and 30 seconds left. Okay, 20 seconds. 20 seconds left. Five seconds. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead and wrap it up. So take a moment to check through your notes and see if there's anything that you need to write down that you forgot, or, you know, oh, if I only had another minute, what would I ask? Jot down anything that's left hanging for you. All right. So the next phase of this, so we're in the inquiry phase. We're trying to discover as much about each other as we possibly can. And in that first round, you know, we might have conversations about what's obvious. What are you actually seeing in this wallet? Right? And you might have even started to share some stories. I saw somebody, you know, you were like showing thumbprint, and I mean, you know, we started to learn a little bit more, but there's more for us to discover. So we go into what we call these deep dives so that we can uncover the things that are true for our partners that we may not have been able to discover with a quick skim across the surface of wallet contents. So you'll notice up here, we've got the Pink Panther and Spectre. What we are really wanting to do is we want to dig for the stories and the feelings and the emotion. What is it that you noticed in your conversation with your partner that stood out, that was like the why behind why this particular card or this photograph or this key or tips for negotiating? How many of you have a card in your wallet that gives you tips for negotiation? Right. So there's something in this, right? Right? How many of you discovered that your partner has something in their wallet or purse that you've never heard of anybody else having in their wallet or purse? How many of you found things you did? How many of you found things like you found what you expected? All right? Were you expecting a negotiation card? Who would know, right? I mean, okay, so can anybody point to the person who has a negotiation tip sheet in their wallet? Does anybody know who that is by looking at them? You can't tell, right? But somebody in here has one. It's not me. It's not me. I negotiate on the fly. So what we really want to do is we want to get into what's the story behind that. You know, if there's something that stands out for you as different or unique or just odd, or when they were telling their story, you noticed a subtle shift in them, You know, here's a picture of my great grandmother. You know, did their eyes get a little watery? What's that? What's that about? Okay. So you're going to have 3 minutes now to really, really dig deep. And you'll notice that on this screen it says, forget about the wallet. Forget about the wallet. What we really want to know is more about the person. So what might a story be around negotiation for you? You know, where did that come from? Why, you know, what is it about when you saw that card that you went, you know what? I should carry that. You know, unless you're in the business of negotiating, you might not have a real reason. But there's a reason. And it might, you know, who knows where that reason comes from. Could be, you know, I was in the debate team and I was unprepared. You know, so now I know I will be prepared. So take this next 3 minutes, and person A is going to spend the next 3 minutes really diving deep into whatever it is that you noticed or learned from that first round of inquiry with your partner. So you'll have 3 minutes on your mark, get set, go. Good. It's nice to see you. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. That one right there. Yeah. Peter's going to join you guys if you want to bring him up to speed. One minute and 30 seconds. Are you asking why a lot? Forty seconds left. Fifteen seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So now we're going to switch. Person B, interview person A. You've got 3 minutes to do the same. Why does he still carry a picture of his ex-girlfriend in his wallet? When was the time he carried a lot of cash? What does she remember about her first paying job? What is it that matters most to your partner? It happens. So if anybody else has gotten swept up in chit-chatting, remember, dig deep into the experience of your partner, what matters to them. One minute and 30 seconds. Fifteen seconds. 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Go ahead and bring that conversation to a close. So, I trust that you learned something about your partner in that second round that you didn't glean from the first. So go ahead and on another one of your sheets of paper, on the left-hand side, I'll ask you to capture your findings. And we throw these into a couple of categories. One are our goals and wishes. What is it that your partner is trying to achieve? What is it that they want? If you discovered, and I don't mean to pick on you, but it's such a rich example of, if you found a negotiation tip card, what's that all about? What is it that he's wanting to accomplish, that having that in his wallet readily available, how's that going to serve him? Has he ever used it? Is it one of those things that's just there in the event of an emergency? And by goodness, what kind of emergency might that be? Right? What is that? So on the surface, it looks like, some anomaly in a wallet. And deep inside of that could be a fear or an aspiration, or there's some reason why that card is there. And I doubt that it's because of emergencies, but who knows? So the reason that we carry these things doesn't necessarily have to be rational, right? Much of what we do is irrational, so to expect anything else is folly. So use a lot of verbs, and then the insights. What did you learn about your partner's feelings and motivations? What did you learn about your partner's feelings and motivations? Because here's what happens. As human beings, we're driven by our feelings, right? We might think one thing, like we know there's no monster under the bed, but we still check, right? So we know there's no monster, but we're driven by a felt sense of vulnerability or excitement. Who knows what that driver is? So what are those? And then you want to make inferences from what it is that you heard. And, oftentimes that's not the safest thing to do. But this is really a part of exploration. You might discover that your inference is wrong, but still make it because it's part of the process. So if we find out that your inference was wrong, it's okay. But make them anyway. So go ahead and take 3 minutes to really capture that, because this is really where you're going to start to distill the understanding that you've come to from a couple rounds of conversation. So take 3 minutes starting now and capture your findings. Okay, thank you for coming. One of the conversations that's taking place at this table over here is, some people carry a lot of things in their wallet because they want to be prepared. Other people travel light. Why? Peter was saying we, carry a lot of things to be prepared in the event that the creek rises. But won't the creek rise on the people who are carrying a money clip too? So what is it? What is it? Why are some people okay with a money clip and other people need to carry everything? 40 seconds. Ten seconds. Five, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now, if you haven't done it already, which many people do, you can go to the right side of this slide, and we're forming what's called a POV. That's shorthand in the industry for point of view. Okay? Really what it is that you're coming up with your partner's point of view. So, my partner, Bob, needs a way, or I would say my partner, Peter, needs a way to always be prepared in the event that the creek rises. All right? I hear everything. That's why I pace. And this is really important. because this is the person that you're designing for, right? So if you're my client and I'm your designer and you say, redesign the interior of my home, and I go to my studio and come up with a great design based on what would make me comfortable at home, and then I give that to you, and it doesn't fit, it's because I didn't really explore what does it mean for you to be comfortable in your home. And there's a quote that floats around that's attributed to Henry Ford, and it talks about, as human beings, there's a number of reasons why we don't know what it is that we want, and they're well-earned reasons. But Ford is given credit for a quote that said, if I were to have asked people what it is that they wanted, they would have said a faster horse and buggy, right? It's actually not true. He never said that. But that quote floats around so much. But it does point to a really common experience, is that it is hard. It's hard as human beings for us to honestly get in touch with what it is that we want, because there's so much pain associated with not getting it, right? Mostly when we're young and we have a want, those needs aren't met. I mean, that's just the nature of growing up and getting hurt and getting tough and moving on, right? But one of the coping mechanisms might be, well, if I'm never going to get what it is that I want, the shortcut to avoiding the disappointment is to not have wants at all, right? How many of you have had a dream or an aspiration, a hope, a want, and somebody told you, oh, that's stupid, or you don't deserve that, or that'll never happen, or the odds are against you, or the economy's in the tank, or people wash their own dog, whatever. And as entrepreneurs, people who are starting a business, there's a want in there, right? I want as many people to come in touch with design thinking as humanly possible. That's one of my wants. So as an entrepreneur or a business person, what is it that you want? And what are the little voices that are, playing in the back of your mind that tell you that you don't deserve it, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, the economy's in the toilet, it's all kinds of reasons, right? So we want to have this point of view. Peter needs to always be prepared for when the creek rises. Okay? And I don't even know if I started the timer on that, but let's just say that you've got a minute and a half. And this can be a hard part. So if anybody has any questions about forming a really, spot-on point of view statement, go ahead and ask it, because I'm sure somebody else might be struggling with the same thing. So keep in mind that this point of view statement is going to be the foundation of what it is that you design for your partner. This is going to be the problem that you're going to solve with your design for your partner. What's that?
Is the wallet a euphemism?
Certainly could be, or whatever it is that you discovered along the way that was more important to her. Right. That's why we're forgetting about the wallet. We're going to design a solution for whatever. Yeah. That's okay.
Solved all of our problems. I said for the wallet, he wants it for comfort. I want it for function.
He wants his thinner, and I don't care about money. He's going to give me all his cash.
Oh, nice.
His thinner, so that's all we're about.
That's collaboration. Yeah, there you go. All right, so just take another minute to feel good about your point of view statement. Now remember, your point of view may be based on inferences that you've made, based on the conversations that you've had. Your partner may not have made it so easy for you as to just come right out and tell you what the thing is. You may have discovered it along the way. If the quote that Henry Ford is given credit for were true, it wouldn't have done him a whole lot of good to ask people what it is that they wanted, because they never would have said a horseless carriage. Right? They would not have known. They would not have known that a horseless carriage may have solved their problems. So 15 more seconds. So in this next phase, how many of you have ever uttered the words, "I'm not an artist"? Anybody ever said that? Okay, so let's just all agree that none of us are artists, okay? And on another sheet of paper, and I only put these 5 rectangles up there to be cute, really, but you don't have to draw your pictures inside of rectangles. You could draw it anywhere you want. Take the point of view statement that you have and keep it close, and use that when you're drawing these 5 sketches. So you're gonna come up. This is the ideation phase. We're gonna use our imagination and sketch 5 radical ways to meet your partner's need. Now, this can be hard. One, if you have an inner voice that tells you that you're not an artist and you can't draw, let that be your kindergarten teacher's voice and put that back in grade school. It's not applicable here. Nobody's going to be grading you. Okay? Make the ugliest sketches that you can. Because really what you're doing is you're moving your ideas out of words and into pictures. And as human beings, we are visually driven. As human beings, we are driven by the mental images that we carry. So if we aspire to retire on a warm island somewhere, and we keep that picture somewhere where we can see it, odds are that we're going to think about it. And what we think about is what we talk about, and what we talk about is what we do. Okay? So this is really just an opportunity to put some picture to the thoughts that you've had. And you have a whole 5 minutes to do it, so go ahead and start. Yes. Oh. Bless you. You can use the color if you need a bigger sheet. You're designing for each other. Yep. Yeah, so you're going to sketch 5 radical ways to support your partner's need or meet your partner's need. Notice if no picture is coming. One of the best ways to start drawing a picture if you are stuck is put your pen on the paper and move it. And I know that it sounds funny, but it's true. Because I have no idea what stories are playing out in the back of your mind when I ask you to draw something. There's a wonderful researcher by the name of Brene Brown, and if you haven't heard of any of her books or TED Talks, I highly suggest that you check her out. But she talks about people having art scars. You know, what happened to you that one day when you colored outside of the lines in school? Were you admonished for that behavior? Did somebody shame you, embarrass you, humiliate you, or make you wrong because you colored outside of the line? Bless you. If the word doodle makes it easier to do, you can doodle instead of sketch. Now, some people's brains just don't work that way. For some people, drawing is really, really hard. For me, it's writing. I couldn't write to save my life. But I also refuse to put my pen on the paper and move it. So maybe I could get better with practice. Notice if you still are thinking about designing a wallet. If you're still thinking about designing a wallet, did you miss something in the conversation with your partner? Not necessarily. A wallet might be the thing.
Do you need to ask another question?
No, you can ask any question that you want.
Now tell us.
If I took my suit jacket off, would you feel more free to ask me questions? Oh, okay.
No, I mean of her. I can
Oh,
ask
you
her.
can, absolutely, absolutely.
I thought that would be like a cheat.
No, there is no cheat. There's no such thing as cheating. So here's one of the funny things here's a disconnect that exists between education and business. Right now, one of the hot things that's happening in the business community is teaching people to collaborate, right? Well, in school, that's called cheating, right? So you stay in school and you collaborate, but you get in trouble for it, and then you move into the corporate world, and they pay people like me to go in and teach people how to cheat off of each other. So feel free. If the people at the table next to you seem to be having success that you're not, feel free to ask them, what are you doing? What are you doing that's making you successful? I need to cheat. You got 5 seconds left. Did anybody get 5 images? Okay. So, this is an important part. You're going to have 5 minutes each to share the sketches with your partner. Now, this is about getting feedback. This is not the solution. This is about getting feedback around ideas that you had that might be a solution. It's not the solution. You got your thoughts onto paper through a picture that you can point to for your partner and say, here's the point of view that I've taken. Here's the point of view that I've taken, and here are 3 things or 5 things, or here's 1 thing that I thought might actually solve this for you. Give it to them in detail, and then get feedback. Now, feedback can be a tricky thing because it's oftentimes when we've been creative, being creative is a risky activity in and of itself. Okay? And putting your creation out into the world for other people to see invites all kinds of opportunities for failure. Okay? That's not what we're doing. Okay? The idea of failure being bad runs counter to what design thinking is about. In design thinking, the idea is to fail as fast and as often as you can. Okay? And we avoid failure. You've all been taught to avoid failure. Okay? Even if you do your best and you fail, you still don't want to take that report card home to your parents. And if you're like me, when I was a kid, you came up with amazingly clever ways to ensure that your parents never got your report card. And if they do, it was reflective of somebody else's work, not yours. What's that?
Tell us one thing.
So the idea here is not around should I fail or should I not fail. It's here's a thought that I had. Let's give it a shot. Because the feedback that you get off of sharing this idea will be instrumental for improving the solution as you go. Okay? So share your ideas, get feedback, take copious amounts of notes. And this is not about defending the idea. Okay? And that's a really easy thing to do, is to go into defense of the idea. Okay? There are lots of companies out there that are defending their idea while somebody else is in the garage getting ready to put them out of business. Okay? So go ahead and spend 5 minutes each. You can have 10 minutes total to share your ideas, get some feedback, come up with new ideas if that's what happens. Does anybody have questions? Yes. What's that?
Can I ask to see your wallet?
Sure. Actually, my wallet's in the car.
That's also a solution. I was assuming you did this multiple times. Maybe you changed your wallet based on
Yeah, I have a public wallet and a private wallet.
And that I may have known that her, yeah, it's gotta be small. That was the one thing that I heard.
Okay, 1 minute and you'll switch.
Just the card. Just the two cards that you really need. There's not as many layers. That was the other thing about the guys' wallets. Instead of having things that slide into things that to just has anybody ever seen a Jacob's Ladder toy? That's my so there's a ribbon or a strap that holds the flap of the flap, and it, instead of folding and folding, it Jacob's Ladders.
If you have not yet switched, go ahead and do so.
We're having a very collaborative four-way.
I'm doing that for I said that for everybody else.
Okay, because we were having such a great time.
Because you're on your own.
All right, that's mine. Oh wait, and in this one, for the guys, just your driver's license and your number one credit card in one flap with a blank on the other, and these little archival plates in the middle that has just
That's why mine's so thick.
and then on the other side for the deals. Maybe one more place to slot the receipt, the credit card, the business card, or whatever, so that you just can't.
Sure. Does anybody have feedback? So you're sharing your solutions. Are you defending them? Are you trying to find out more from your partner about what they think?
Yeah, sure. I love this. Yeah, so it's basically all been short. Right, yeah. We're like trending on right
Two minutes left. The more feedback you get on your ideas in this last minute and 33 seconds, the better. I just like seeing what people do. All right, you have 30 seconds left. Five seconds. 3 and 2 and 1. Okay. Now get yourself a full sheet of paper. Flip over anyone, doesn't matter. As long as you have a nice blank sheet. So, I'm going to give you 3 minutes to do this next phase. And this is another example of iterating. You're going to draw again. But really reflect on the feedback that you've gotten. And you get to sketch one big idea. It might be a combination of the best parts of the 5 ideas that you had. There might have been one idea that was just so fantastic that you need go no further. That's certainly possible. There might be, as I said, elements of your ideas that if you were to combine them, what would that look like? And you might be looking at that sheet of paper thinking, I got nothing, right? That you've gone all this way and you have no one big idea, which is fine if that's what's happened, because the beautiful part about design thinking is that it's an iterative process, but it's nonlinear, right? So we might go through a lot of inquiry. We might even go into deep inquiry and then come out with a point of view statement that seems really right on, and then we come up with some ideas and we share them, and we couldn't be further from the mark. So what is that an indication of? You know, do I need to learn more? Like, do I need to go back and inquire differently? You know, I was kind of screwing around during that phase, and look, I was chit-chatting, right? And it came back and it bit me, because now I got nothing, right? And that's fine. I mean, on the surface it looks like failure, but it's just information, I mean, if you think about, the data hierarchy, like, data is meaningless. It's not information until we make meaning out of it, all right? So if the data is that you don't have one big idea, you could go to, oh, I'm a horrible person, right? I should have been doing what I was told. Or you could go, notice that I can get chit-chatty, and sometimes that stands in the way between what I'm doing and what I get. So if that's the data, so be it. It's just good information for how you might do things differently the next time around. And that's the beautiful thing about, 7 times is 1,000 times better than the first. Because we know that if we do something imperfectly here or we fail here, that we're going to have another opportunity. We're just going to keep going. Now we're not going to do that tonight, right? But in the overall scheme of things, if this thing has bugs, I know that I'll be doing it again, right? Which allows me to let go of the fear response of I colored outside of the lines or I got chit-chatty, and just go, yeah, I can get chit-chatty, but what did you learn about each other in the chit-chat? It might be more comfortable for you to chit-chat than it is to do a deep dive. So however it is that you gain your insights, and if it's chit-chatting, it's chit-chatting. However it is that you come to gain your best insights is what's really important, because we all do it differently. I would not stand up here and prescribe to you that the way to do this is the way that we're doing it. This is a way, and it never looks the same twice. So sketch your one big idea. You have 3 minutes. Use color. I put 2 different colored markers in everybody's lunch bag. They're permanent. Or maybe they're not, I don't know. But in any event, sketch your one big idea. Draw a picture. Use your pens. Make little scribbly notes. This is basically a schematic or a map of your solution. And again, we're not going to be graded on penmanship or grammar or spelling, punctuation, and there are no lines on a blank sheet of paper, so feel free to color outside of them. And 3 minutes starting now. Two minutes and 54 seconds. This is your one big idea. This is your chance to get up to bat in the big game. What's that? I've heard that before, Will Ferrell. But thank you. Nobody ever says a good one. They just say Will Ferrell, which I sometimes can take offense. I'm like, I've been working out. One minute and 40 seconds. This is where you are drawing your idea.
Said that phrase again.
Less than 1 minute. The best way to start drawing is to start drawing. Another one of the things that Brene Brown says that I really like, she talks about perfection. And this is one of those things that can come up for people when they're doing this work is, that doubting voice of if this is good enough. And there's a lot made of being perfect. And, some people would describe themselves as a perfectionist because they really want to do good work, which is true. And one of the things that Brene says is that perfection is a 20-pound shield. And a lot of times we use perfection as the excuse for avoiding making a mistake. And we get a lot of support when we're growing up for being perfect. I was a preacher's kid growing up, so I was far from perfect. But we certainly are encouraged to be that way. All right. So that's the 3 minutes plus a little extra for sketching your one big idea. Now, the reason, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to build something that your partner can interact with. So the contents of your brown bag lunch are prototyping materials. Popsicle sticks, clothespins, zip ties, some stickers, some paper, glue, tape, that sort of thing, bendable straws. So you're going to have 7 minutes. Now, I want to share with you that this is the point in this process where people get grumpy with me because they didn't have enough time. Right? So just as I said at the beginning, this whole thing might feel rushed. And that's because we have time as one of the constraints that we're working with. And so you're going to have 7 minutes to build what basically amounts to a model. You're building a model of the idea that you have. Okay? So again, this is one of the things where once people get started, they don't want to stop, but sometimes it takes them a long time to get started because they're not quite sure what to do, because when was the last time you did this? Right? This really is just a representation of your idea. It is not a perfect thing. It's straws and pipe cleaners and tape. And if anybody needs anything that they feel like they don't have, there are extra bags back there that you can feel free to go grab and use whatever you want. This is called prototyping, and specifically it's called rapid and low resolution. So if we know that we're going to do this 6 more times, does it make sense to overinvest in a perfect prototype? No. This prototype really exists to do a couple of things. One is to get your thoughts out of your head and into the physical world so that somebody else can interact with them. 2 is this gives your partner something to poke holes in, right? If you've fallen in love with your idea and you've overinvested in a prototype and then somebody comes along and points out to you its failures, are you going to be more or less inclined to let it go and move on? Yes. To let it go and move on. If you overinvest in this and you fall in love with it, and somebody says, that doesn't work for me, are you going to be open to that?
Go ahead.
If anybody needs more supplies, just raise your hand. I'll bring them to you. If you don't find the material that you want in your bag, feel free to improvise with things that you find around you. I see some people are using their water bottles. Maybe your partner will let you use their wallet. You can use the bag. Sure.
This doesn't count. This is just so you can stand up. The mountain is falling out.
In 2.5 minutes. Two minutes left. Okay, 1 minute. All right, 30 seconds. That's always the case. Okay, 20 seconds. How many of you would use an extra 30 seconds if you had it? Okay. I'll give you an extra 30 seconds. 15 seconds left. Five seconds. All right. 3 and 2 and 1. So, now what we're going to do is we're going to test this. There's only one sure way to know if the thing that we made works. There's only really one way to know that if I've redesigned the interior of your home, if you like it, which is to go get in it and for me to watch you. Can you really relax in that sunroom that I designed for you? So we learned so much more about the sort of effectiveness of our solutions by watching people actually put them into use. Okay? So in the spirit of having had designed and made something that your partner can interact with, that's exactly what we're going to do, is share your prototypes with each other and walk through and explain and understand what these prototypes can do. And what we really want to get at are a few things. What really worked? If you're going to make any improvements to this, what would it be? Are there any, if you're the person who did the making, are there any last-minute questions that you would ask now that you missed before that you would, the answer might inform your design? And when you're giving feedback, offer that crazy idea. Like, here's, this is a crazy idea, but what if? What if we did that? And the reason that these crazy ideas are so valuable is that they're only crazy because they're unfamiliar, right? And what we can have a tendency to do is appreciate the things that are familiar, right? Which doesn't actually create innovations or new solutions to problems. It just recreates familiar ones, right? That we're already okay with. So these wild and crazy ideas, oftentimes are the catalyst for coming up with solutions that otherwise we wouldn't have gotten to. So go ahead and share your prototypes with each other, explain them, and just ask these 4 questions real quick. It's 8:18, so we've got 12 minutes. So go ahead and do this for a few minutes with each other, and then we'll have an opportunity to share, okay? So is everybody clear what we're doing right now? Share your prototype. My guess is that many of you are already intimately familiar with them, but go ahead and share them with each other. Walk each other through your solution. And offer any feedback along the way. Now, as you're sharing your prototypes, if there are a couple of you and your partner just made something so fantastic for you that you have to share it, let me know.
Oh, is that what that is? Okay.
So I'm going to crunch us on time a little bit and just let you know you've got 2 minutes to do this. What really worked? What could be improved? And maybe a crazy idea. So just take 1 more minute to finish this part up. And in the last 8 minutes that we have together, I'd like for us to try to accomplish 2 things. One is if somebody would share with us the prototype that their partner built for them and just share a little bit about that. Does anybody feel like sharing what it is that their partner made for them? Either one. Really, we just want to get it. So we just want to get it some sharing. Okay.
Both of our ideas was basically we didn't really need the wallet too much. We just had to carry things around with us. Decided to go away from a wallet and say we both carry our phones around with us all the time. So maybe incorporate a small part of the wallet into a case of a phone and kind of digitally inside the phone.
Very good.
He had some
wanted to always see the screen, so he wanted to have the wallet really on the back of the phone, and have the ability to like stick just a few amount of cards. I have sort of a filing cabinet in my wallet. He likes to have this very thin, so almost the same thing with the iPhone in there, but it just puts the essential items in there, like the student ID or the driver's licenses, and of course cash. You and I were both talking a lot about the functionality of having apps in there, so we came up with a few ideas. Mine was about how to coordinate where to get discounts for where to go eat, and keep track of your budget for how you're spending things. Put one on their cloud storage, so I had a filing cabinet, so he was going to load quite a bit up there, I guess, business cards, along with memberships. So that's basically the idea, bouncing between both of our ideas.
Okay. Someone else want to share? We're going to just share one more of these prototypes, and then we'll just open it up to Q&A in case people have questions. Go ahead, Mike.
After looking at my wallet, I think it's probably pretty valuable.
Just stuff it in there. So what are some of the things that you're noticing about this experience? We found a challenge. We rushed into a challenge, drawing the ideal wallet, and then we sort of backed off of that and came back around at designing something of value for our partner. And we did a couple rounds of inquiry. We got a little bit of feedback. We tested some ideas. We built a prototype. We're getting a chance to share that. Out in the world, we might do this 6 more times in order to come up with a solution to a problem. But I'm just curious, what is something that came up for any of you while you were doing this? Or questions that you have about how design thinking is being used? Sure.
Two things. Focused on what the customer needs or wants, as opposed to what I think the customer needs. That's something that I tend to forget.
Sure.
The other is collaboration. The interaction and the creativity we came up with, the quality of our efforts is vastly superior to the quality of my personal efforts. I'm an entrepreneur, I own my own business, I can sit in my own home office, and I can come up with these wonderful ideas, but collaborating with colleagues and consultants, customers, I have to be able to provide better services, better products. And so that's very vital.
Someone else?
Feedback is great.
Feedback? Yeah. What was your experience around feedback? Because this is something that we all do, and we are not taught how to. Go ahead.
Vision is hard to articulate to someone that doesn't share your point of reference.
Sure.
I was thinking basically the same thing. In order to have successful collaboration, is share vocabulary. And the person who comes with more knowledge of the situation has to.
Right. So there are 2 things that I would say to that. One is around the shared language. Much is being made of achievement gaps. And the gap in achievement in K-12, we're looking at socioeconomic differences, technology, access to information. At the root of an achievement gap, or any gap, is language. So, the first day that I was in chemistry class as a high school student was fine. The third day I was in chemistry class as a high school student was horrible. And by the third week, I was rarely in class because I didn't speak the language. And so in order to stay safe, I just slowly backed myself out of the room, right? Because it wasn't safe for me to raise my hand and say, I don't understand this language. So the exact same thing exists anywhere there's a gap, you can oftentimes find a lack of a shared vocabulary. And there was the second point that you made. I forget what it is that you said.
That as the entrepreneur, you're bringing a new language.
Sure.
Is, putting your ideas where someone else can reach them.
Right. Oh, I think what it was, you said something about knowledge. And this is a really important thing. One of the things, knowledge exists in the world, and one of the ways that we're taught to acquire it is somebody will stand up in front of the room and transfer it to you, right? And the way in which you store that in your brain gives you a certain kind of access to it. That's knowledge that already exists. In this room right now, we have tacit knowledge, which is what is it that each and every one of you knows that when combined with what everyone else knows becomes valuable. So there's this, how do I transfer knowledge to you versus how do we co-create a new body of knowledge by integrating all the tacit knowledge that's in this room. So every perspective is valuable, every single one. I have worked, in groups with the CEO sitting next to the person who worked in the mailroom, and it was the person in the mailroom who came up with the idea that blew the CEO's mind. So every perspective is valuable. We have no idea the experience that each and every one of us has had that brings insight that we could put to bear on this challenge that we're facing. So one of the things that is really on the shoulders of people who feel as though that they have knowledge is to make room for everyone else's knowledge to find a seat at the table. Okay? Someone else?
Are you an interrogation card as well?
We could ask him.
Negotiation. Interrogation.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I'm so interested. Interrogation.
Yeah. How many of you have been in a negotiation that felt like an interrogation? The question is that on that card?
It's a negotiation card. It's really a leftover from a previous employer where we put together a negotiation program and we were teaching people a lot of the ins and outs of negotiation, and it turned out to be a big spreadsheet that would not be useful, because what we really found is that the people, the project managers, needed to have a refresher 5 minutes before they were called to the floor from the manager to say, I need to take resources out of your project, or I need to add this onto your plate. And this would be a quick tool that they could use and refer to as a quick refresher 5 minutes before having to address that high stakes negotiation. So put it in my wallet, and colleagues put it in their wallet as well.
So that's a perfect example of why it's so good to iterate. Because if the people who are in a position of power, or the leaders, said, what we're going to do is we're going to design a big old spreadsheet, and that's enough. And if that's where it stopped, and the spreadsheet would, who knows where that would be, and it would never get used, but with a little bit of feedback, that deeper insight, oh, you know what? This is great information, but how do we make it useful? This is great information that we came up with in this first round of inquiry, but how do we make it useful? How do we turn data into information by making meaning out of it? Okay. Anyone else? It's 8:32, so I feel pretty good about being close to that. If there are no questions, thank you.
Thank you.